Hello, welcome to the Sutliffian Report. Today, we have a lot planned. We're going to be talking with Clare Lopez, who's here joining us already, and we're going to be talking about the topic of marriage as we're going through Shariah, and you'll see some stuff is actually into play, and it's kind of scary when you start thinking about it. But we're going to start with a reading from 1 John chapter 1, verses 8 to 10. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. If we say that we have not sinned, we make him a liar, and his word is not in us. When you go out to share the good news, you meet some interesting people. Still, with that said, it is a rare individual who will claim he was without sin. But not that this is a reflective statement. It's about a group that John is with, the group the reader is part of. It is for the reader to think on. This is for the believer. People sometimes look at Christians as believing they can no longer be sinful, that they are above sin, the hoity-toity nose in the air type that drives the average person mad. It's a surprise to those that see Christians as believing they are above it all when they hear these words, especially when you point out it is reflective. It is Christians saying it of themselves. What a statement this is, that the person who makes such a claim not only deceives himself or herself, but has no truth within. Think about it. There's a good reason that this statement is made, but for the sinner who knows and believes in the wonder-working power of Jesus' blood shed on the cross, there is a great promise that he who is faithful and true will forgive you. All it takes is your confession to him. Forgiveness from God does not mean that there is no penalty attached to the sin on this earth. So think about that. Hey, we've got Sharon back. Wow. It's been a while. All right. So I'm going to, nice to see that you're back and healthy. Glad to have you back. All right. I'm going to change up the look here for a minute, and let's see how this works out. I'm going to put Clare over here. And Clare, we'd love to have you talk about what's happening in Iraq that has to do with Islamic marriage.
Right. So thank you, Paul, for having me. Glad to be with you and our other guests and all of our viewers. But I write a monthly newsletter for Chris Wright. And you can find that online at liberato.us. That's liberato.us. And the title of it is Women Under Sharia. And so what Paul is talking about here is a bill that has been proposed in Iraq. It is before the Iraqi parliament at the moment, has not yet been passed, but may well be so in the near future. And that law, or I should say that bill, proposes that in accordance with Islamic law, that the marriage age for girls be lowered to 9 years old. And of course, that would be in keeping with Islamic tradition that holds that Muhammad, if he ever lived, we're not quite sure, but let's say that he did, that Muhammad's favorite wife, Aisha, was married to him at the age of 6, actually, but that the marriage, the rape, that is, was consummated at the age when she was 9 years old. So in keeping with that, the bill is pending before the Iraqi parliament right now.
So this pending, it was a change for what? It's going to be a change from what age to what age?
I think previously it was for girls, the age was 16 or older, and for boys 18 or older, if I'm not mistaken.
And now it's going to be possible for what age girls?
9, just like Muhammad, if he ever lived. Yes.
Well, he married a 6-year-old, but waited to consummate it. And it's just like the stuff we're getting into. This is the book of bleep that we're reading in Reliance of the Traveler. They say the word means marriage, but it does not mean marriage. And that's we're kind of like going through this and getting translations from Usama and others, and this is just shocking, this book that we're going through.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's totally expected. It's absolutely par for the course. This is normal. This is natural in the Islamic world. I might point to a recent publication at Jihad Watch, Robert Spencer's excellent online site. This was published just a few days ago on November 10. Ura, happy birthday, Marine Corps. And it is called Child Marriage in Islam, an Overview. Perhaps you've seen it, Paul. But
Yes.
what this compilation does, quite a few pages worth, is collect the statements, written, spoken, and otherwise, of the Muslim scholars, both Sunni and Shia, through the ages, about this institution of child marriage. Might be worth taking a look there and seeing the quotes. But as I said, it's pretty long. But again, go back to Jihad Watch, November 10, Child Marriage in Islam, an Overview.
I think people should look at, in my last book, The Cancer Civilization Jihad, we cover this, and we talk about a forced marriage. You're going to hear that terminology used when we cover Sharia today. But can it be anything else but a forced marriage?
Well, yes, it can be, but you have to question whether a young child of the age of 9 is really capable of giving informed consent, and which is why in most of the Western world, that age for marriage is 16 or above for the girls. But within Islam, they will say, and the scholars say, the doctrine says, that the father of the girl basically owns her, and he has the right to give her, sell her into marriage whenever he likes, from the day of birth onwards, literally. The marriage is not supposed to be consummated until the girl is 9, but the marriage can take place at the will of the father anytime from birth onwards. And supposedly, the girl is supposed to be asked, if she's old enough to be asked, if she consents to the marriage, but in fact, she really has no say-so to refuse this institution of child marriage. She has none. She is a creature that belongs to her father, or without the father, an uncle, a brother, a son, even her son. For an older woman, owns and is allowed to direct and basically tell the women in his family what to do and what not to do.
I see that part from as an educator. I've gone to visit Islamic homes in the past, and the child will, the boy, the teenager will have authority over the mother, and that is mind-numbing. No matter how many times I had to encounter it, it doesn't make sense. And I, this is the other killer part. When there's no father present, an older relative, male relative, has to be there, and I'm supposed to talk to the older male relative, but he's not the parent, so I can't legally do that. So I have to talk to the mother and the father, or or whoever else, the son. In the case where I'm talking about, was the son. The older son would have to be there to not just translate. She would refuse to talk to me in English. And the claim is she couldn't communicate in English, but I happen to know better in this case. Yeah.
Well, you know what this traces back to? The root of all of these doctrines, practices, laws, goes back to the fact that within Islamic doctrine, any child born of a Muslim father is a Muslim. As in Judaism, any child born of a Jewish mother is a Jew. And so by that, it means that any child not born of a Muslim father is not a Muslim. And so it's about the bloodline. And it's about keeping that bloodline transparently known and traceable, and to make sure that no outsider, the mailman or the milkman, doesn't somehow get into the family tree. That's what it's about, because the objective, of course, of Islam is to spread, and they do that, of course, through birth, through children. But if they cannot be sure, 100% positive sure, that the child is born of a Muslim father, oops, they've lost one, right? That's what it's about.
So in this country, what is the big danger with Sharia? I mean, we've been going through this, and we're talking about marriage, and we're going through all these other things. In this country, are Muslims marrying off children at these ages?
Well, it's hard to know if those things never come to the attention of law enforcement or the courts. Yes, there are Islamic courts in the United States. There are such establishments in every mosque, Islamic center anyway, in the United States. And what goes on there is not always known to the outside world. And those that are more observant, devout, and faithful practicing Muslims will be following, the scripture, the doctrine, the laws of Islam within their own communities. Some years back, when I was still at the Center for Security Policy, we put together, I think it was one, but it might have even been two collections. I think maybe two in the end. But in any case, of cases within the U.S. legal system under which we could document that in some way, shape, or form, Islamic law, Sharia, had entered into the proceeding. Whether
I actually used that. I actually used that and taught from that. So that was
so at least one of those. It was a monograph, a paperback. I don't remember if there were two or one. Certainly one. I have a memory that perhaps there were two. But in any case, there have been numerous cases throughout the United States in our U.S. courts of law. Remember Article 6 of the Constitution, the supreme law of the land shall be the Constitution of the United States and the laws derived from it. But nevertheless, this collection of ours showed that many, many cases in one way or another had Islamic law enter into the proceedings of that court case.
And the majority of the ones that I observed had to do with family law.
Yes.
And that was scary. And the woman really has no rights. And that's just mind-numbing. Anybody else have any questions for Claire? See, guessing Eric, did you have anything? I was asking, I wonder if you had a question, Eric. I can't hear you.
I probably will towards the end of the show.
Okay. Eric served over in Iraq, so I think this might be a little more personal for him. We're not hearing you still. We were on a minute ago. We were hearing him talk a few minutes ago, so I don't know what's up, but sometimes you just got to keep trying. All right.
He's going to back out and come back in.
I made it easier, so I didn't realize you had to verify. I had done that a couple weeks ago because I had a problem with someone kept kind of bumping in, so I bumped them out.
Oh.
All right. Here we go. Here we go.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's
okay. Yeah, I was trying to use this. It doesn't matter. We're hearing aids, and it's my hearing. I can't hear. Okay, to my question. The question. Okay, so Iran exerts a lot of political influence on Iraq today. It's almost a proxy of Iraq. So, and the minimum marrying age in Iran is 13. Am I correct on this?
No, I believe it's 9.
It is 9 in Iran.
I believe so.
Oh, wow.
I did double check that, but I think so.
Okay, well, then it's kind of a moot point then, because my understanding was that the minimum marrying age in Iran was 13, which I couldn't always figure out. But the Shia, if you talk to some of the Shia, one of their major disagreements, of course, is the sources or the authenticity or the authority of ahadith collections. They don't recognize many of the, Bukhari, Muslim, Al-Nasi, all those popular Sunni collections, where the Shia collections, many of them, this is my understanding, don't put the age of Aisha at 9, which, this is, of course, it's all Sunnah. This is why it's 9. It's because it's a Sunnah. If Muhammad did it, then of course it's okay. So if Iran's marrying age is not 9 and it is 13, how can Iraq therefore step out, or are they stepping out of line by taking it down to 9?
Yeah, here's the ambiguity. I'm just looking real quick here online. Legal age in Iran for marriage for girls varies. Ordinarily, yes, it would be 13, but apparently with the legal consent of the
Guardian?
guardian, I believe that's it, the age could be 9 to 13, 15 for boys. There can be a court order. I'm reading this. A court order for children 9 or even younger with parental or guardian approval. Now that's marriage. That's not necessarily the rape of the consummation of the marriage, but that's Iran. So it's between 9 and 13.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's and we get it. This some of this we're talking about now. It's
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is, okay, how does Iran therefore establish that number? Because the Shia are no fans of Aisha in any respect. I mean, well,
kind of, because their imams all descend from her children with Ali, who are, I'm sorry. But she is considered part of the Ahl Bayt, the house of the Prophet. I'm mixing up Fatima, his daughter, and the line of the imams descends from her and Ali. But Aisha, I guess they had no children, but she's very much part of the Ahl Bayt, as they would call it.
But do they believe that she was 9 when Muhammad consummated?
Yeah. No problem. And even if you go to the writings of the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, he wrote some absolutely revolting stuff. Of course, he was a very senior scholar at Qom for many years, from, I don't know, about the 1930s onwards until the revolution of 79, and then he died in 89. But his writings discuss how the marriage of a girl baby can take place practically the day of or after birth. And although, again, the consummation of that marriage is not supposed to take place until the age of 9, the husband is permitted. I don't know how to do this for a family audience, but the husband is permitted to, shall we say, play with the baby.
Right. That what you're saying?
So long as actual, sexual intercourse does not take place, he can basically do anything else he wants. That's Khomeini's writing.
So, and that's interesting, because you'll run into Shiites who'll insist that Aisha was much older, and I look, can you prove it to me from something? And there's never anything offered to prove their age. We of course, there's Kenny Bulmer, who just imagines that she was 18 and has no sources. But I have yet to see anyone provide a source that Aisha was any older than 6 when she married and 9 when they consummated.
Paul, can I
I'm
say
going to
it,
pull up.
please?
Yes, go ahead.
We weren't there, so we don't know. Kenny
That's what he
Bulmer
said.
is
You want there, Darcy?
I mean, again, if we read Robert Spencer and his book in particular, Did Muhammad Ever Really Exist? There is absolutely zero record in the archaeological record or, coinage or written statements or anything else whatsoever that Muhammad existed until the writing begins to emerge a couple of centuries after he is supposed to have died, in the year 632. And then writings slowly begin to emerge and come together to attest that there was this person. But there's nothing, absolutely nothing in the archaeological or any other kind of record until then, meaning about like 900s or so, that he ever even existed. So
there's a lot of debate in the apologetics, Christian apologetics field, that there was no Muhammad or Islam invented until about 800, early 8th century, I should say.
okay,
or mid
9th
8th century.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 8th century when there's a start reference to it. There's no reference to Islam prior.
Century. No, not until at least to the 800s, meaning the 9th century into the 9th century.
St. John of Damascus references a bit of this, and that's when we start to see it. And I think that's around
753.
750 is what I was going to say. Yeah. So we start to see something.
Not an individual who can be identified as Muhammad.
That's true.
No. We're only talking about
the Islamic, the Arab hordes that poured out of the peninsula. That's what they refer to.
We're talking about the beginning of a belief structure around 750.
Yeah, they don't have anything about an individual who can be, authentically identified as Muhammad. No.
Yeah, and the person who is supposed to be behind this is the same guy who was into putting the word Muhammad in the Dome of the Rock. So you start looking at this and you start seeing some of this history. This is the new stuff that's coming out in Christian apologetics, saying, look, Muhammad is invented. They're saying MHMD was supposed to be a label, title given to Christ. There's a whole bunch of new stuff coming out. So as Robert Spencer says, and as Smith says, Dr. J. Smith says, you got a 3-legged horse, you got a 3-legged stool here. You got Muhammad, didn't exist. You got Mecca. We know you can't possibly live in Mecca during this time period because of the heat, and there's no way you're going to survive. So, okay, that's another thing. That's out. Where did Muhammad live? If he lived, well, it's probably Petra. We know that. So that's 2 legs down. In the Quran, well, guess what? We know that written Arabic didn't come along until, again, we're getting back to the early, mid 8th century until we get written Arabic. So now we've got all these problems. And if you actually read the Quran and like Usama Dakdak and you're looking through it, it's written so badly. And for educators like Eric and myself, we look at the Quran, we see a major problem that indicates the person who wrote the Quran is a second language learner, or this is, again, the creation of a new language. So a written language. You agree?
I would also throw in there Dan Janicek. Dan Janicek has been publishing in peer-reviewed journals quite a bit lately.
Yeah.
The historicity, all these issues that you've raised about the historicity of Islam itself, to include the existence of Muhammad, the language piece that you talked about, how it's supposed to be Sabaic Arabic or something on those. I can't remember exactly what the one article was about, but also definitely challenging challenging the existence of Mecca. I mean, that is the heart of the whole, the crux of the entire deal, as far as I'm concerned. If Mecca does not exist in the 7th century, Islam did not grow in the 7th century. This is a redacted history upon this. And when you start digging into this, and as we've said several times on this show and on my show, if you do not have any evidence to support the existence of the mother of all cities just 1,400 years ago, that is a huge problem. And I would grant you that you have an extremely deep and abiding faith, because nobody can have that kind of faith, especially when there is zero evidence supporting the existence of that city. It doesn't show up on a map until it's not mentioned until 741 in any Islamic literature, and it's not on a map, I think, until 901. 741, well, I get the two dates mixed up, but at least the 9th or the 10th century before we even find it on a map.
Well, and of course, it was not called Mecca back then either. It was called Yathrib. It's a different name.
No, Yathrib is the city. Actually, that's from Medina. Yathrib is
Medina. Okay. Paul, I'm trying to get into to post something in the chat, but it won't let me.
If you go to present, to post something
in the chat room.
Okay. Did you want to post?
I was going to post
the
link to Robert's book, but I can't figure out. You can't.
If you put it in private chat, I'll post it for you. I don't know why.
Right. Let me do that.
I had a problem with that on somebody else's show once, so I don't know why it's doing that.
Yeah, only the channel can do it, I think.
You guys can't?
It's very easy. It just opens right up.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a.
Okay, I put it into private. That's the link to Robert's book.
Yeah, I don't know why it's.
I got it. I'll do it.
You got it? Okay. All right. Okay. So, I mean, I Dr. Janasic is actually one of my professors. I'm taking a course in Christian apologetics right now from him. It's quite revealing, the updated information. I'm waiting to see more of this come out. And the reason, again, while we're talking about all of this is because we're on this topic of marriage in going through Reliance of the Traveler. And I'm just going to flip over to this so we can see this. We're going to switch screens in a second and so everybody can see what's going on here. I'll tell you this, before we get into this is not a show where you want young children around because this topic is not a topic for children. It covers a lot of material, unfortunately, that is sexually explicit. And this is supposed to be, again, here it says the Book of Marriage, but it is not the Book of Marriage according to Arabic. It is the Book of Bleep. That's my best way to put it. And I can't have a show where I'm using words like that. So, again, not the show you want your children to listen to because this is not appropriate for them. They're old enough to understand stuff on sex, and you think that that's okay for them. My preference is to have young ears out of the room when we're doing this stuff. So this is one of the things that Claire had just talked about was guardians, and Usama was saying this word that we're talking about with guardians is wali. And he was talking about how the importance of who the guardian is and that you can't do certain things. So on the left, we have Reliance of the Traveler. And I'm going to ask Darcy if you would read M13.
Okay. Guardians are of two types. Those who may compel their female charges to marry someone, and those who may not. One, the only guardians who may compel a charge to marry are a virgin bride's father, or father's father, or grandfather. Compel, meaning to marry her to a suitable match without her consent.
Wait. So is that what we call a forced marriage? She doesn't give consent.
Oh, yeah.
So it's legal. It's legal. And yeah, again, this is the. All right, Nicola. If you have here's the question. This is a question for you, Claire. Before we go on too far, why has the U.S. government empowered people like Jack Shaheen, something real bad, Arabs, to set the tone for how U.S. leaders interact with Muslims within U.S. borders? I'm not familiar with this.
Well, we might recall that as far back as the G.W. Bush administration here in the United States, meaning the early 2000s, the right after the aftermath of 9/11 and on into the early 2000s, there was something we all called the Great Purge. And even as American troops were going into Afghanistan and then a little bit later on into Iraq, within the federal government and throughout all of the agencies and organizations of the federal government, all lexicon, all vocabulary, all references to words that actually were accurate in description of Islamic doctrine, law, and scripture were purged from that lexicon of the federal government, and also those who previously had been teaching within those agencies and organizations. And there I would mention Robert Spencer, Bill Gothrop, John Guandolo, Andy Boston, and there are others, all purged. We called it the Great Purge. So this is why when you get into these military operations in these two places, in particular, Afghanistan and in Iraq, the military leadership on down to, the lowliest private, they have no clue what they're doing, what the people in those places believe, or what they practice. They have no clue because they've never been taught. And that was on purpose. The idea of the Bush administration, extremely naive. Yes, he was Christian. He is Christian, but that sort of blinded him to reality that you cannot just take, a Western civilization concept, of individual liberty, our First Amendment rights, of religion and freedom of speech and freedom of press, freedom of assembly, right to petition government, redress of grievances, all those rights, and just transplant them to some other civilization that has never heard anything of the sort and wants nothing to do with it. You can't do that. That's not possible. But that's what they were trying to do in both of those places, and it's why we lost both of those wars.
That's a good way to put it.
Claire, are you saying that this purge occurred during George W. Bush's administration?
Yes, it did.
So the 9/11 report, when was that cleaned up, or when was that edited to take out the references to Islam? Was that during the Obama administration, or was this during the?
No, it was during the composition. There's nothing in there about Islam or Islamic law, doctrine, or scripture. Nothing. That's not what the 9/11 Commission Report's about, and I'm very familiar with it because I happen to be an expert witness in a legal case about 9/11, which was called Havlish, the name of one of the widows of one of the pilots of 9/11, Havlish versus Bin Laden et al., as I recall the name of the case, adjudicated by Judge George Daniels, Southern District of New York in Manhattan. And in that case, I co-authored with a colleague and a friend one of the affidavits when we went through in a much more thorough fashion the involvement, the orchestration by the Iranian regime, working together in collaboration, of course, with Hezbollah, with Taliban, with Al-Qaeda, and Saudi Arabia to some extent as well. But that 9/11 Commission Report, that's not what it's about. But there are many other documents Steve Coughlin is one who documented this, and that can be found online. The various different documents of different agencies, like the FBI, like the CIA, like the the White House, the National Security Council themselves, how the vocabulary of those agencies' publications was purged. And then along with it, of course, the instructors like Steve himself and all those others I mentioned.
And Steve Coughlin did a great, you can look up his, I think it's his dissertation or his master's, yeah, To Our Greatest Detriment, I think it's called.
Yes.
And you want to look that up because he does something masterful there. So he looked at, there's a claim that there's such a thing as Islamic supremacists, or whatever you want to call them, or Islamists. There's a claim that they speak different stuff.
Devout, faithful, practicing Muslims.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. Is this? There's these claims that they're separate, but it's all one, and he proves that through examination of language, and that's the masterful work that he did. He looked at, say, okay, these people are citing these scriptures. Oh, so these people over here claiming they're moderates do the same thing. So he proved that there was no difference, and through an examination of language, through an examination of scriptures citations, there was no difference, and he does that masterfully.
Here's something very simple. I've studied a whole bunch of languages, but in Arabic, I only got to 2 or 3 semesters, I forget. And then I dropped it because I wanted to switch over and study Farsi instead with my focus on Iran. But out of that 2 or 3 semesters that I did take, I learned how to read Arabic, although I don't have the vocabulary, the grammar to speak it well. But what I did learn is this, that in Arabic, there is such a thing, well, in English as well, a part of grammar called a verbal noun. Islam is a verbal noun. That is, it is a noun that denotes an action. The action is submission. That is a verbal noun. When you put an MU in front of a verbal noun in Arabic, you get the person who does that thing. So you put an MU in front of Islam and you get Muslim.
The person who submits.
Muslim submits to what? Sharia. Therefore, within the very word itself is the definition of what a Muslim is. One who submits to what? To Sharia.
And this is a interesting point that I think many people miss. That I think that we have big discussions I've seen on who the submission is to. Is it Allah? Is it Sharia? And I think it's to Sharia. Yeah, I think it's to Sharia because when we get to Usama's new Quran that's going to be coming out, and we're hoping in the near future, he's talking about the word Allah actually is the La, and he's going to be
God, meaning the one true God, the creator.
No. No. He would say it's not the God, and he says it's the La not being God. It is their God. It is a idolic
but they're
God.
Monotheists. They believe in one true God, creator of the universe. Same as Jews.
But that word Allah is not the word. For God.
That's what they call it. That's what they mean. They mean the one true God. They're monotheists, and unless we're polytheists, there's only one true God.
Well, no, we don't have the same God. Is why I'm saying it. We don't put it that we won't know it. There's a big difference.
Right, but if you posit that there are some other gods, then we're polytheists, and I'm not.
Well, I'm positing that the Muslims don't know that they are pushing a God of polytheism, and that's what it is.
They're not polytheists, and they don't believe in polytheism.
At the same time, they use all the idolatry, all their rituals that are in Sharia are from polytheism that have no place in the Quran or the Hadith, and there are no doctrines that actually come from those that are all in Sharia. They come from polytheism, and it states that in Sharia.
But they're not polytheists. by any stretch of the imagination, they're not
But
polytheists.
yet they are repeating all these traditions from
but they're not polytheists. I mean, they got traditions from the old days, but they're not polytheists any more than Christians or Jews are. And if you're a monotheist, objective reality, there's only one God in the entire universe, and that's it.
When you have a faith structure that pushes a God that is, you can actually look up and find the history of the word, the law, and it's not a word for God. And you go look that up.
That's what Allah is. I mean, that's what, in Arabic, Allah means God.
Okay, that's where I'm getting. I think that's an error. All right, we'll talk later, Claire. I'm gonna let you drop out. All right.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
What?
Good, nice having you.
What is she gonna leave early, Paul?
Well, I've got the time if you want me to stay.
Oh, you do? Okay. Eric, you got a question? Go ahead.
You have a question. For Pete's sake, if we got her here, I'm gonna pick some brain here.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, with the election of Trump, I see you got a red hat behind you. I'm assuming
you like it.
Yeah. I love it.
And that's a silhouette of my little daughter many years ago.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's cute.
Up behind. Yeah.
Okay. So with him coming in, as far as reinstituting the Abraham Accords and the sanctions on Iran, do you think that his policies are going to be immediately implemented and switched back to the ones that were in place when he left office in 2020, or do you think there's going to be some modification there?
I mean, certainly, the sanctions actually still exist. They have not been withdrawn. The only problem is they're not enforced, and there are waivers granted for them. So that's not a problem. That can be immediately reestablished. For example, also the listing of the Houthis to the foreign terrorist organizations list, that can occur immediately. So certain things can happen right away, and I expect that they will. But other things will take longer. But we know, for example, that President Trump, former and future, has talked about the reimposition or the reinforcement, I should say, of those sanctions. But he's also talked about a policy of, what does he call it? Maximum pressure, right? Maximum pressure. Financial will be part of that. And you may not think of this as related, but his emphasis on drill, baby, drill here in the United States to revive our energy sector and remove the blocks on it that have been in place for the last almost now 4 years, that will not only free up energy for the United States, it will drop prices for everything in the United States, because everything that is produced or transported relies on energy, be it oil or gas or even coal, electricity as well. So we will see our prices going down, but at the same time, I mean, our companies will do fine. They're not going to suffer under that. But at the same time, worldwide prices of oil are going to drop.
Sure.
And what that means is that Russia will be constrained in carrying on its aggressive invasion of Ukraine at the same time that the Iranian massive exports, in particular to China, will now be curtailed to some extent, at least. So these are all sort of downstream effects of what you might think of immediately as an Iran policy for Trump, but really have broader implications across many sectors, especially economic.
Do you think that he's going to, as far as their nuclear program is concerned, do you think that he's going to give Israel a lot more latitude now to go after that?
Yes, I do. I'll tell you,
And like a clean slate, just do whatever you want, and we get back type deal.
I'll put it this way: I have never heard out of the Iranian regime at the top levels, from the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to other top leaders, Hossein Soleimani of the Pasdaran, the IRGC. I've never heard such statements of openness and frankness about their intent to build, deploy nuclear weapons. Now, full disclosure, I've been working with the Iranian opposition, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, for 20 years. And much of, I think, what the Western world, the IAEA even knows about the Iranian nuclear weapons program, I suspect comes from them, who are on the inside and know at what point that weapons program is at. I think they probably also that with the Israelis, with Mossad. So Mossad is going to know. Now, I think that Iran probably already has a small handful, probably fewer than 10 warheads. They've got warheads, but for whatever reason, under international sort of popular convention, it's not called a weapon until the warhead is screwed onto the top of the nose cone of a missile. So at the point when the regime may begin to put those warheads on the nose cones, I think the Iranian resistance will know, Mossad will know, and Israel will have absolutely every right under international law to anticipatory self-defense. And I think President Trump would not only support that, but assist in a number of ways, like we did even in this past strike by Israel, two full weeks ago, I think now, or more, the strike against Iran, when we helped by providing the tankers, the KC-130s, for refueling, mid-air refueling, and other means of support. I think that will definitely happen under President Trump. Yes.
That the intelligence is compromised. I mean, if you look at what happened, I mean, I wouldn't, if I was Israel, I wouldn't be trusting our government.
We're not.
They've had to go in there and do some house cleaning at the Pentagon, CIA, and all the other alphabet soup agencies. I did have another question. If you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. Tom Holman, I know you and him are.
I know him. I won't say very closely, but I know him and I've worked with him. Yes.
He's come out and said that he wants to designate the cartels as terrorist organizations. How does that? What are the implications of that? When we think of terrorist organization, especially the cartels, does that include military action? Does that include?
So at the moment, the Mexican drug cartels, Sinaloa, Zetas, Jalisco Nueva Generación, all these guys are designated right now as transnational criminal organizations, TCOs. And that brings with it, that designation brings with it a certain set of legal measures that the United States can take against them. The designation as a foreign terrorist organization would open up legally the authority for additional capabilities, including cross-border strikes by the U.S. Authorities, be it DEA or even Texas National Guard, what have you, but cross-border attacks against those cartels and their facilities, their capabilities. I'm not sure what else that designation would bring, except, of course, public opprobrium, which is in and of itself probably one of the objectives. But in terms of authorities, I think the objective is to allow additional authorities to the U.S. military to defend us, to defend the United States of America and we the people against what the cartels are doing, because they're not just at the border or in the plazas on the Mexican side of the border. They're inside the United States. They have entire departments, if you will, of their cartels responsible for the acquisition of American real estate along the border. And they own American property along the border, Arizona, Texas for sure. from which they watch the trafficking routes. They serve as lookouts, to see, is the coast clear to cross over, and also from that position to threaten and attack, really. I mean, even Americans, including our law enforcement.
Well, that is something you talk about, cross-border incursions into Mexico. That to me is, it's dangerous, number one, because anytime you cross a sovereign country's border militarily uninvited, that can be construed and perceived as an act of war.
Well, yes, that's the whole point.
Right. What I'm trying to get at is, how does Trump get away, or how does Holman, Trump, the Pentagon, all of them get away with just specifically, does this designation as a terrorist organization open up a whole can of options for them legally, and under not only the United States but international law?
In the same way that we have conducted with authority military assassination strikes against members of Al-Qaeda, for example, all over the place in the wake of 9/11. The invasion of Afghanistan back in late 2001.
Would the difference for this terrorist versus TCO label be the difference between being able to close a financial account as well? Would the terrorist designation allow the closing of financial accounts?
No, that already happens on a very large scale already. That's already been happening forever.
So that's not the issue.
Under Presidents Obama and so forth, that shut down Operation Cassandra and other things, but we have that authority already to do that. Yes.
Okay.
When individuals are identified as members, operatives of these drug cartels, or just cartels more broadly, because it's not just drugs anymore, it's human trafficking too, the cartels. But when they are identified, legally charged in a court of law, which many have been, including Hezbollah, by the way, in the United States, then yes, they already do have, then law enforcement has the authority to close down bank accounts, to seize property, real estate, what have you.
Well, I had no idea that they had the cartels purchased property along the border.
Oh yes, but in the chat, you'll see it's not just along the border; it's all over the United States.
Why aren't we seizing it then?
Hello, Radical Moderate here from Chicago. I can tell you the cartel owns massive amounts of real estate here in Chicago. The little strip mall, the bodega, and the laundromat, and the ice cream shop, and the Mexican grocery, and all that stuff, that's owned by cartel. Guarantee you it is. No, it is. They own all over the place. They're heavily financed. Yeah. So basically what we're going to do is
Hezbollah too owns property and businesses all over the United States.
Oh, I'm sure they do. They were. I just saw an interesting report that they were really heavily involved after 9/11 with the cartel.
Well, they've been in bed with the cartels much longer than that. I used to teach law enforcement all across the U.S. And this is part of what was in the training course that I taught, and that is that exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, they're major lending laundry, but yeah, they're all over the place. The money is just heavily here in Chicago. But anyway, I just foresee that we're just going to do in Mexico what we did in Colombia, and just seize all the money, seize all the cash, have limited strikes, blow up their labs, blow up. You know what I'm saying? Do a definite hunt and kill, and that'll be that, and it'll be over soon, hopefully. But we'll see. Anyway.
Well, as we know, there is a new president in Mexico. I'm trying to remember her name very quickly here. Claudine.
Yeah, she's a Marxist.
Yeah, she's a protege of AMLO, the prior president. But she was just recently elected, yes. And I'm sure that President Trump will be, if he already has not done so, be reaching out to her on subjects just like this. but Scheinbaum, that's her name, Scheinbaum, right? Claudine Scheinbaum, if I got it right, I think. In any case, I'm sure he'll reach out to her first, just as he did to Lopez Obrador, the previous president of Mexico, with certain terms. And perhaps they will come to an agreement, and then what we're talking about might be avoided.
Well, either way, something's got to be done because this is just getting way out of control.
Yeah.
So like I like volunteer occasionally off and on with different homeless shelters here around Chicago, and I can tell you that before Biden took office, the price, well, fentanyl wasn't the big deal. That came roughly around 2020 or 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was like oxy and meth and everything like that.
Yeah.
But the price of fentanyl was like $20 to $25 a pill in Chicago. Now it's not even $1 in some cases.
Yeah. We're flooded. We're flooded with it.
Yeah.
And
when they say, I'm sorry, when they say we've seized a lot of fentanyl, no. You don't judge drug prices or your success in the drug war on the amount that you're seizing. You judge it by how much it's selling on the street. And if it's selling for only a couple dollars a pill, you've lost. But anyway,
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, this is from China, of course. Originally, China was shipping the finished pills to Mexico, and the cartels would pick it up from there and traffic it across the border. But after President Trump had a stern word or two with Xi Jinping, she promised, okay, we won't send any more fentanyl pills. Okay, but what they did instead, and continue to do to this day, is ship the precursor chemicals to the cartels in Mexico, where they mix it up, and then China, the Chinese Communist Party, essentially, already also has shipped on a continuing basis. They ship the pill presses. These are, the presses that press out the pills, from the mixture and make tablets out of them, and they are killing 100,000 or more Americans per year.
There was a bar here in Chicago. I'm sorry.
Opioids, but majority of that is fentanyl, and this is pure Sun Tzu. This is Sun Tzu on steroids, because what they're doing is killing, like I said, 100,000 Americans per year, and they have not deployed a single tank, ship, troop, or plane to do it.
There is this fentanyl, just so you guys know, there is this bar. It was not far from me. But no, this guy, he just walked in with the fentanyl pills, and just the dust, because he put some on like a bar, on the bar, okay? And he was like selling them or something like that. But that was it, just residue on that. 7 people that went to that area of the bar, they inhaled this stuff because they're not used to it. They had to call the ambulance on them. It didn't kill them, luckily, but it totally knocked them out. They just passed out. They had to call the ambulance.
Yeah.
That's how poisonous this stuff is. And worse yet, you know what they're doing? They're putting this stuff called xylidine. Okay, this started like 2 or 3 years ago.
The zombie drug that everybody's running around like this.
Yeah, xylidine. This stuff. No, they're actually. They thought that the addicts were actually mixing the xylidine here in America because you can buy it at the pet store. It basically cleans out fish tanks. No, they're actually putting the xylidine in the manufacturing process.
Yeah.
And the fiends love it, man. Anyway.
I mean, but to bring this all back to Islam and to Iran and Hezbollah, I think we got to this by way of Hezbollah. Hezbollah makes a lot of its income per year from narco trafficking. Here in the West, in the United States, it is, like we said, all kinds of drugs. I mean, to include fentanyl, yes, of course, but others too, methamphetamines and other things too, heroin. But over there in the Middle East, I think the majority of what is trafficked by Hezbollah and also the government, Bashar al-Assad in Damascus, is Captagon, which is a kind of an amphetamine. They traffic Captagon all over the Middle East because the fighters, and there are lots of fighters over there, take the stuff to stay awake, not feel hungry, not feel scared, all that. And then, of course, the Iranian regime traffics opium out of Afghanistan. You know, they share a border, and it's trafficked out of Afghanistan through Iran, and the IRGC, again, the Pasdaran, is complicit in this. And sometimes it is consumed inside of Iran. Many of the top ranks of the clergy, the Shiite clergy in Iran, are addicted to drugs, and they take them all the time. But a lot of it then is shipped onwards, outwards to the Gulf, to places like the Emirates, where there are lots of customers there too. And so even though consumption or trafficking of narcotics is supposed to be verboten, you know, under Islamic law and in Iran, in practice and reality, not so much.
Do we know, not just about the United States, do we know if, let's say, Turkey and other Islamic countries are facilitating this into Europe?
Yes, because as I said, some of the product, if you will, goes through Iran and then down the Persian Gulf, you know, to these other Gulf states, like I said, the Emirates. But other quantities of let's say the heroin go straight westward. And yes, Turkey is involved in this and trafficked all the way through to Europe. Yes.
Are the gray wolves as part of this?
I haven't researched that. I wouldn't be surprised. They are a criminal organization, organized crime, but I've not researched that myself.
It wouldn't surprise me. That really wouldn't surprise me because of the stuff that they've been used for.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So people, I don't know how many people have heard about Hezbollah using. I had not thought about their drug campaigns here. I've read about it, and it's been a while since I've actually looked into that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's the stuff we need to start getting out in the news more. I mean, I don't know how to. Is there places you recommend?
For years, I don't think they paid attention at all. For years, I was teaching sheriff's departments across the entire United States.
Because it's racist and Islamophobic to say that. You can't say that.
Say again?
It's racist and Islamophobic for you to say that they're involved in drug dealing. How dare you?
Well, they never said that, and they didn't say that to us in the course. This was John Guandolo's course. I was part of that. I think it was maybe that they're pretty well overwhelmed, and certainly now with, you know, the influx of illegal aliens, they just had too much on their plates, probably, to absorb everything we were telling them. I don't think it was indifference, and I don't think it was any kind of resistance to the message we were you know, imparting to them. And they were aware of the Hezbollah presence across the United States, because there have been so many criminal cases that have been brought into court and made it into the media because of that. And local law enforcement knows that. They're part of that. They do their best, I guess, but they're overwhelmed. I think that's it.
Now, I want to kind of come back because I know some people are pushing in the chat room. They're talking about the forced marriage, and it's one of your big things, talking about this, and that was kind of where we were going with the beginning of the discussion on Shariah. I want to get back to that part, because one of the things I've been noticing is they have created in the UK a 24/7 hotline that has to do with forced marriage and abuse of women. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Honor killing. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Let me mention that I've covered these topics extensively again at that website that Chris Wright manages, called liberato.us. Liberato.us. It'll be there. Every month I put in a horror list of abuses that I've noticed, reported in the previous month. And certainly in Britain, they've been extremely foolish. I'll tell you a quick story. A number of years ago, I was at a dinner with a visiting at that time former MP from the British Parliament. And he was telling us that 20, 30 years prior to that dinner date night, that in Britain, the elites had gotten together, meaning the academics, the think tanks, the politicians, and they decided among them that Britain was too Anglo, too Saxon, too white, too Christian, and it needed to be changed. And that's the point at which Britain decided to open its doors, first of all, to all those who lived in its former colonies. So the Caribbean, Southwest Asia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and so forth, open their doors to all of them to come on in. And then later that expanded even further to where Britain is well and truly overrun with these immigrants from places that never should have gotten into Britain in the first place.
How do they come to that? How does Britain get out of that mess?
Well, I mean, they're going to either have to, I don't know if they can get out of it. Let me say that. They might be too far gone. They might not be able to. Other places like Netherlands that just elected Geert Wilders' party, the Freedom Party, or even other countries in Europe that are trying to get a little more serious. It's massive deportation, just like us, massive deportation, and then of course closing the borders. But Paul, back to what you were getting at there. There are other manifestations of this in Britain. We probably all have read the horror stories of the Pakistani rape gangs. They called them grooming gangs. Remember that? Across Britain.
You know what? My family's from England. We've been here 400 years, and that still disgusts me to no end to think that my family history over there, that they've lost their manhood and they won't defend their own children.
No, what happened is that the police in those different cities, Manchester, Birmingham, what was the other one? Rutherford, was that the name? I think.
Manchester, Birmingham, and I know what you're saying.
It's all over.
I want to share something. I think this will blow your mind.
But they were raping girls,
yes,
little girls, on a massive scale, and the police refused to lift a finger because they would be accused of racism or homophobia or something like that. Look at the census count. I went and looked this up because the question I had, Usama asked me, was how many Muslims currently live in Birmingham? Because there's an actual 24/7 hotline just in Birmingham for honor killing and forced marriage. Yeah. So the question was how many, and I says, well, this is from 2021. This comes right from them, and they're at 30% in Birmingham. I mean, 340. Sure. Yeah. We're at 300. This is incredible. Yeah, I mean, remember what I told you before, that every child born of a Muslim father is a Muslim, even if it's by what they call jihad rape. We write about that a lot. Yeah, the kidnapping. Yes, that's girls and women and children from those rapes are Muslim because the father was Muslim. That's how they increase the numbers. So jihad, love jihad is sometimes a term you'll see used. But the other thing is just plain old kidnapping and forcible conversion. This happens in many places. Egypt for the Copts, and other places. India has a lot of that going on. Forcible kidnapping and then rape. And then when the girl is pregnant, then, well, you have to convert, and the police just hold back.
Yeah, this is just this is the stuff. I don't think people realize what's happening over in Europe. These huge numbers that we're seeing, they are not conversion stories. The vast majority are not conversion stories. These are people who came there illegally. They're constantly coming. This week, I think it was 27 or 29 small boats, and they had I can't remember the number. I think you mentioned it when you first came in. 27. It's just 27 or 29 small boats, and it's thousands. They just brought thousands of people in this week.
Yeah, I mean, this happens all the time. They refuse to close their borders. I've always said if we line the Rio Grande with, U.S. Marines with fixed bayonets, it would stop very pretty quickly. Yeah.
Actually,
would you agree with that, Sharon?
Actually, alligators.
Alligators, sure,
Repopulate.
yeah.
No, seriously, repopulate. The Greenpeace people love us. You know what I'm saying? Because
That's a great idea. Yeah.
We're repopulating, reintroducing an extinct species into its natural environment. And that'd be that.
That could solve a problem and create a problem at the same time.
Actually, I have a question for our guest. This doesn't have to do with Islam, but this political thing. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Tulsi Gabbard being named DNI, as well as Ratcliffe for CIA chief, and who's the other guy? We got somebody else.
Are you talking about what, Matt Gaetz or?
No, that one I think is kind of like a false flag.
Oh,
I think that's Matt.
Maybe. Do you mean
What's
Pete
that?
Hegseth to DOD?
Yeah, DOD, and then we got Tulsi Gabbard for DNI, and then Ratcliffe for CIA.
And he's CIA. Yeah. Well, I would refer you all to a good friend of mine, born in New Zealand, but now married to an American living in the United States. His name is Trevor Loudon, Loudon. Trevor has a couple of websites, but one that's especially useful for our purposes here is called WikiLeaks, kind of a play on, he's from New Zealand, Kiwis, right? So WikiLeaks, or I'm sorry, not WikiLeaks. What is it? What does he call it? Wiki. Anyway, it's a wiki. And there, if you go here, I'll find it so I can give you the right name. He has
WikiWand.
A lot of information. Huh?
WikiWand.
Say that again.
WikiWand. I just found it. WikiWand.
No. That's not it. No.
KeyWiki?
I'll get it. My system is so slow.
Is it KeyWiki?
KeyWiki. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you. Oops, there goes my mouse.
Okay.
Hang on 1 second. I got to get my
KeyWiki,
mouse.
the man behind KeyWiki. Okay, there's another one. Okay. There was a KeyWiki. Okay.
Can you post it in the chat?
I'm doing that right now.
I got it. There we go.
Okay.
Oh, it's not posting. It won't allow me to post. Comment has failed to post to.
I've had that.
Only the admin can do it.
I don't know.
I don't know why it's doing that today. I'll double check and see if I can fix that.
The word key, wiki.org.
.org. That's what I've been doing wrong. Okay.
What happened to Claire?
I don't know. I didn't touch anything. It wasn't me.
She dropped her mouse.
Oh yeah, she dropped her mouse. She'll be back maybe. Right. This is when you're fighting, there's just so much out there, and there's just so much out there. KeyWiki.org.
Well, I think I will probably. This is. Can I actually present here?
Put in the Skype.
Present. Share screen. All right.
Put that up
I don't
there.
know what. Okay. This is KeyWiki.
Yeah, this looks like what she was talking about.
Post that in the Skype chat, if you could, please.
There's a conduit to, let's see, is a conduit for Russian propaganda who has moved from extreme left of the Democrat Party to become a favorite of American conservatives, libertarians. She consistently echoes Russian propaganda memes, often exploiting her military background to give her pacifist message a patriotic.
So pretty much DNC talking points.
Yeah, political career was launched by Hawaiian First Lady Nancy worked closely with Democrats, Socialists of America, overlap. So this guy evidently is big old hit piece on
I have no. This is really a. Ever worked closely with Democratic Socialists of America and the overlapping Bernie Sanders movement for many years. Yes, she did
she
do
was.
that. Yes,
No,
that's
she
true.
was early on, and then
Yeah.
she was actually
And she
co-chair
was-
of the DNC. She was co-chair of the DNC for like a year, and then Nancy Pelosi stabbed her in the back because she ran.
So she's
against
left.
Hillary.
While this is a hit piece on her, I will say this. I would not start an article on her this way. Did she spin out from this? The answer is yes. It says in recent years, Gabbard has echoed the MAGA he's really trashing her. I don't know. I don't know enough about.
I has no love lost for her. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's all DNC talking about, so.
Yeah. I don't know. He definitely doesn't like her. The one that I was concerned about was Rubio being put in.
That doesn't.
It doesn't follow through with me.
Yeah, we need someone tough for Secretary of State.
I just don't see him as the right personality. That's my way of looking at it. I just don't. I can see him being a yes man and doing what he's told, but I think for Secretary of State we need an independent thinker. Rubio, I just
someone's a little
that.
tougher. Someone's a little tougher. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I'm thinking the same thing. I don't have anybody I could recommend in my head right now. The people I would have recommended for other jobs, if a lot of them have retired. That's the catch. A lot of the good people have just. Leo Holman
for Mordezai, that dude's a pit bull. He can play himself in the movie. He's going to be unleashed.
Yeah, I think Leo Holman will be fun to watch in action. That's my best take on him. I'll wait and see. I want to see the. It's funny because even the Democrats where I live like the idea of mass deportations.
Everybody does.
I'm kind of.
Everybody does.
It doesn't. They like their income. They like the idea of America being prosperous again. You don't have to be a Republican to want to see your food prices go down. You don't have to be a Republican to want to see your gas prices go down. Everybody's feeling it in their wallet. That's the stuff I see changing.
80% of Americans across all Americans, not political affiliation, across the board, want mass deportations.
Yeah,
and we don't even have to do mass deportation. We don't have to do mass deportation. Just cut off the freebies. Just say, guess what? No welfare for you. No housing assistance. No free travel to anywhere in the country you want to go. They can literally just go up to these NGOs that we fund, by the way. They get grants and stuff like that from the United States government. They can literally just show up. Yeah, I don't like it here in New York. Can you send me to, I don't know, Boulder, Colorado? And every time they arrive in a new city, they can reapply for the 60-day free housing and their free gift cards and their free food stamps. And then when they use that up, they're like, yeah, I'm going to go get the free bus ride to someplace else. And that's what they're doing. They're just cycling all over the place. Unless you're in a gang and then you take over an apartment complex, you're good to go. Or you kill our wildlife in the ponds and eat our pets. You know, some people do. I'm just saying. But yeah, did we scare her off? I'm sorry, she kind of disappeared.
I think she accidentally bumped off. I didn't bump her. I should have made it. I tried to make it easier because there was something in the settings that I realized she might be. Let me double check and see if there's anything going on here. And yeah, so I don't know why you guys can't post. So everything that's here, I don't understand what happened. Oh, hey, did you see, Eric? They started a green room in here like we had on BTR.
What happened?
They started a green room like we had on BTR.
What's that?
So a green room like we had on BTR, you can get people come in. You can have somebody producing the show. They can interview the new guy coming on, and they can see if
Oh, who started that? StreamYard?
StreamYard just did, brand new.
Okay, I'll tell you what. StreamYard just jacked up their price to $45 a month.
Yeah.
What was it before?
Yeah, they went up high.
Yeah, I was made aware of that by the Queen this week when we were discussing our retirement finances. So I might have to
go back to the freebie.
Well, I'm going to have to start cutting something because we're bleeding money.
Well, what was it before?
How much does Zoom cost?
How much what?
Does Zoom cost?
I don't think Zoom, you can get the free version of Zoom and have up to 10 people on there. I don't know. I've just gotten, really used to StreamYard, and I enjoy the platform. I don't know.
What was it before in StreamYard?
What's that?
What was it before on StreamYard?
$25, $24.99. I mean,
yeah,
it went way up.
It was like even cheaper than that. I thought it was like only $8 for a while.
Yeah, it's and then I went to look into it, and there's only two options. I think the $45 one's the cheapest option they offer.
Well, they got different. They have competition on. What about Realstream? We'll have to look that up. Yeah. But anyway, what are y'all thoughts on Matt Gaetz?
I like Matt Gaetz. He's a terrorist.
I like him too, but I think this is. I think this is like my favorite Democrat senator from Pennsylvania said. This is God tier trolling at an epic level.
I think it could be fun to watch, Matt. If you gave Matt Gaetz a lot of rope, it'd be interesting to see who he would just round up. You watch some of the way he's gone at people. I think it could be fun.
Well, would he release documents? I mean, yeah.
Yes,
I think. But see, here's the thing: he has no experience as a prosecutor. He has no experience as a lawyer.
The Attorney General manager. He's not trying any cases. He doesn't need.
No, I understand.
Need to be
I understand that. I understand he's going to order people to do it, but is he going to be able to get people to actually do what he says? Is kind of the problem. You know what I mean?
Well, if you are the Attorney General and somebody doesn't do what you say, and you're you're toast. You have to. And this is the thing. A lot of these guys are going to come into these alphabet soup agencies, and they are going to have to clean house. You're going to have the GS-15. If you're a GS-15 and you're in one of these alphabet soup agencies, you're going to be looking for early retirement. I promise you. These people are they feel like they are invincible, and they wield so much power within those agencies. Unappointed, unaccountable bureaucrats is what they are, and they all need to go. They need to clean house.
I agree with you.
For God's sake.
But why hasn't anybody been able to do it before? I mean,
Trump, every time Trump made a move in his previous administration, he's getting backstabbed by somebody. These appointments are specifically being given to people who he knows that, number one, will be loyal to him, but number two, will be accountable to him, who will do what the hell he says for them to do. And like DOD, heads up. That guy was he Lieutenant Colonel, National Guard guy. He knows how to follow orders. I don't know how much experience he has as far as forced immigration and understanding how all that comes together. But then again, the last time we saw an incompetence at the Department of Defense was that Les Aspin dude, was the congressman from Wisconsin or Minnesota or something. That that's how dangerous it can be. I mean, that's what happened to the Black Hawk Down folks is because of Les Aspin and Bill Clinton.
You gotta have people that have experience in the military, running the military.
Yeah, you
Are
have
you
to.
talking about Pete Hagish? You talking about Pete Hagish for the defense secretary?
Yeah, that's
Talking about.
yeah, he's one of the ones people are talking about. They're wondering about the choice.
But that's exactly why he's great, because they're like, well, who is this guy? Well, he's a Fox News contributor. Okay.
Wrong. He's actually a retired major, combat major. No, he's got an extensive service record, multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, command experience,
Right.
and well, Princeton and Harvard graduate. Not that means anything. Yeah, but no. So he's got the Ivy League creds, the connections. Not only that, but he also his main job. He just does the Fox News thing as a hobby. His main job is he runs multiple organizations that deal with veterans affairs.
Right.
Okay, that he started. Okay, that is his goal. That is his mission. Okay, the Fox News, he just does it as a hobby.
There's DEI crap in the Pentagon or in Department of Defense. He's going to clean house with that DEI crap. I
can't wait for our training troopers to go.
Yeah, that stuff, I don't know where they got the idea from. That's just me. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of some people. I don't know.
I still think Matt Gaetz. Honestly, Matt Gaetz is just the troll. Matt Gaetz is not going to pass confirmation. He pissed everybody off with his little stunt against Kevin. What's his name?
Well, I'm kind of with him on that, to be honest. I was with him on that, so I don't know.
Yeah, but look. Okay, so hold on. Here's the thing with this. Matt Gaetz sided with all 100% Democrats, or I should say 100% Democrats in Congress, all voted to get Kevin out, right? When they tried to stunt again against the new guy, okay, even though he did the exact same thing that Kevin did, okay, or that McCarthy did, okay. Actually, he kind of did it worse, because at least McCarthy, he got 9 out of the 10 things they wanted. He couldn't get the 10th thing. And the new guy, I forgot what's his name, from Louisiana. He didn't get any of the things that they wanted. Okay?
Mike Johnson was his name.
Mike Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, Johnson, yeah, he didn't get any of it, okay? And guess what? All the Democrats voted to keep him in office. So you tell me who the Democrats went up. But either way, he caused so much confusion, so much resentment, okay? All right? That it caused a couple of Republicans just to actually leave, say, I'm out of here. But either way, it pissed off the Republican Congress, especially in the Senate. They want nothing to do with him. He's not going to pass. Plus, he's got the sex scandal thing with the 17-year-old. We'll see where that goes. I'm not saying he did it. I'm not saying he didn't. I don't know. But either way, no. I think they needed him out. They need him out of Congress because he's just a disruptor. And you say he can be controlled. He can't be controlled. That's the problem.
I think they're going to this time. So the Republicans have a majority in the House and in the Senate, and I think this time through they might play the Dem game, which would be interesting.
What's the Dem game?
The Dem game. We'll listen to you. We're voting, and we're just going to outvote you. That was the Dem game.
Well, no, vote in unison, vote as a block. But when you got someone like Matt Gaetz in Congress who just gets up his ass, that he says, no, that's not pure enough for me. That's not conservative enough for me. I'm going to vote against you.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's almost the kind of guy you want doing this position. So I'm not. I don't have anyone to recommend. So I'm going to step.
I'm going on the record. As you know, I called the election perfectly. As you all know, right? I called the election perfectly. So I'm going on a limb. Not on a limb. I'm going out that no, he's just a fake. Well, I shouldn't say a fake. He is as my favorite Democrat or senator from Pennsylvania has said. He is just the epic god tier troll at this point. In other words, they're so freaked out about this guy, and they got him out of Congress, so he can't go back to Congress because they already resigned. Anyway, so they got him out, and he's not going to be confirmed. And then whoever Trump nominates in his place, they're just going to be like, fine, okay, let's just do that. You know what I mean? Or unless they give Trump. See you there. Sorry. But unless they give, they go into recess, and they give Trump the recess appointment. Then that's the only way I see him get appointed to Attorney General. Anyway.
Did Eric drop out?
Yeah, he had to go, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering if it was me actually pushing buttons because I didn't think I was. All right. Don't know what happened. I wrote to Yeah, her Claire's system said she crashed. She's out. She'll come back another day. So Claire will come back another day. She said she's out. She got her system crashed. I'm going to start looking at other venues. I will say that StreamYard has been good for me, but for some reason, I'll say these past few weeks, I'm not sure. So we'll see. We pay for it by the year, and so there's a bunch of us together who get together and pay for the system. So we use it together. We'll see if there's something better or cheaper, or we're definitely looking for a better venue if that's what it comes down to. If the cost is that high, I don't even want to think about for the huge amount, because we're using this has been a very beneficial system for us for what we're doing. But
I'm looking at Realstream, and they actually got $11 a month plans.
we've been jumping at the whole plan, so we'll see. Because I'm not looking for super cheap at this point.
5 people, so their most expensive is $21 a month, and that looks like 5 active streams.
At the same time, simultaneous.
Yeah, so I don't know about how many can jump. I'll have to look into this.
Yeah, because we might be looking at it, because I think we're coming up on our anniversary date. We'll see what happens. So I'll end up talking. Lynn actually runs the system for us, so we'll probably be talking business around that time. See what happens. So yeah, we are coming close to that date. We'll see. This is I plan to get into some of this. I don't know that I'm going to get into the Shariah this week that I wanted to. It's so bad, the stuff that we were going to be discussing. It's you almost want to take a shower before you do this, and right after we're going to cover this. So we'll be pushing this off till next week. I think it'll be interesting. The people he's appointing, I'm kind of not sold on a few people, but again, I'm not the one making the recommendations, and when I don't know anybody to recommend, sometimes I just want to keep my mouth shut because I don't know. You have to sit there and wait and watch. Going back to one of the reasons we do this show, it's been critical thinking versus Shariah, and it is it's something. I mean, when you look at Shariah, it is so disgusting. I can't say anything nice about it. I wish I could. There are some things that make sense, but 99.9% of it, I've been talking to former Muslims, and the one thing I keep coming up with that kind of blows my mind is the amount of hidden love of slavery. And I'm just going to give you one slide on this. And Darcy was reading this, but I want you to notice their hidden love of slavery. If you look on the left, we'll read this next week, but if you look on the left, you don't see the word slave anywhere. And this is one of the things that kills me. You'll see they talk about compelled to marry. They don't talk about forced versus, I think they can force someone to marry. And, here we go. Over on the right, they have in the Google Translate. This is a Google Translate. It's not even a good translation. It's Google Translate. And they're talking about a female slave. Okay. It's very, very, this is the stuff that you're going to see in the Google Translate. Yeah, it is just so revealing of how much their love of slavery is. It's just every week we keep finding a love of slavery. Every week we find something sick. And it's just the amount of stuff that we're going to get into. Here we go again, another page. They don't mention the word slave any place in the English that they gave us. And this is supposed to be about marriage, but it's actually the F word. and you're going to see this over and over again. I know I'm skipping ahead for looks. M4.4. If you look at that, I want you to think about how this word is being used. I'm going to check with Usama on this word, on this one. When the father or father's father, see, this is what it says on the left, see that the best advantage is to be served by marrying a young boy to someone. Well, let's take a look. On the right, the Google Translate says, if the father or grandfather sees the interest in marrying the young boy and the young girl is his wife. Wait a minute. By marrying a young boy or girl to someone, they may do so, though they're not entitled to marry the child. All right, so you know what they're not talking about? The slave girl. Yeah. Notice that's all missing? There's nothing there. And this is the stuff we're seeing every single, this is constantly. Here we go, M4.6, a female slave. Well, they didn't want to translate it because they'd have to talk about the female slave and having sex with them and masturbation. They don't want to cover, they don't want to tell you those things.
Wow, go back to that one. Wait. If he is divorced, one female slave is taken as a concubine. The master has sex with this is the untranslated stuff. The master has sex with the young slave, and the older one has sex with his own hand. The master has no right to force him to marry, nor does the slave have the right. What the? So,
again, I'm going to have some fun with this. There is a word for marry, and there is a word for sex. Nikah is the word for sex. Right? It's the F word, okay? And there is a word for marry. So this is one of the ones Usama has been talking about quite a lot when we get into this topic. And this is the particular thing that he's actually been pointing out. Can you marry your own hand? He says. And, and I'm going through this and I was when I did the translation, I said, okay, Usama, because the Google Translate comes out and says marry. Like, no,
Nikah.
It's not. Yeah. So we're going to get into this next week. It's bad. It's just so disgusting, but this is what Sharia is. It's not pretty and it's not suitable for young viewers. And I'm just kind of like, when you do this stuff, when you go through Sharia, it's mind numbing. And you feel you feel filthy after going through it. We're gonna go through this. We're gonna cover it. We'll do this next week. And you know what? I'm gonna see if I can get Dan Gibson to Joe. He's my Dr. Gibson to. Sorry, not. I'm saying the wrong name. I get to see my.
Can you pull up that screenshot again? Because I want to grab the translation.
Oh no, I'll send it to you.
All right, cool. All right. Well, you said that's another thing. You said you were going to send me some in email, an audio record. I never got anything from you. That was like last week.
Okay. Okay. You just let me know. I'll put it up again. Right. It's just. This is just so bad.
That one. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Okay. You have to look at what word they're using, and you have to sit there and wonder, oh my gosh, yeah. Why does, I'm realizing now the more I look at certain things and how certain things are promoted or pushed down in the order of how they appear in Google or results, I'm realizing there is a certain group of people that are controlling this, and they're not allowing your materials to get out there because it exposes what Islam is. I'm looking at the people of NOI. This is one of the things Usama and I were talking about. What would happen if we were able to expose Islam's love of Sharia to the Nation of Islam? If we were able to expose that, if we were able to prove to them Yeah, besides the fact that Muhammad was white. I mean, what would happen if we could prove to them Islam has a love of slavery? Would they stay in Islam when they're telling us, it's all the white man's fault, but, but Muhammad was white and sold 2 black slaves to buy 1 white slave. Okay. No, can't have those things, right? It
depends. So, look, the Nation of Islam. They are not Muslim. They are not even remotely close to what it would mean to be a Muslim. Okay?
Yes.
I mean, what they believe is so far out there. It is like, I mean, if you ever read the biography of Malcolm X, which actually I do recommend, it is a very good biography.
I do. I recommend it. I like it. I've gotten people very angry with me for.
No, Malcolm X. I would love to have met Malcolm X. He's a firebrand. He's like really down to earth.
I would like to have met him because he's a rare dude because he can admit he said something wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the reason I like him.
Yeah. But anyway, they murdered him. Yeah,
right.
They murdered him because he said the wrong thing, the truth. Okay, against the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his cult. But no, the white man, the races were created by an evil white scientist that was a space alien. No, they believe this. Okay, and it's like Scientology but on steroids. Anyway, but they are accepted in the Sunni Islamic tradition. They can go on Hajj.
So this is recent history. So if people don't know this, the organization called M-Gage is attempting to and is engaging in pulling NOI into Sunni Islam. Now, interesting thing about going to different mosques, and I was just talking to Hassan about this. He was talking to me about it. When I've gone in a couple mosques with him, and you go to them, and one of the first things Osama asks is, "What kind of mosque is this?" And they'll say Muslim. Okay, is it Sunni or Shia? Oh, we're Muslim. We don't.
Lie.
Yeah, so they don't know the difference between Sunni and Shia is one of the things we've noticed. Like, can't you tell if you're Sunni or Shia? Don't you know? And the people who are watching the mosque, who are outside the mosque watching, they don't know, we found that humorous. It's sad at the same time. If you don't know your beliefs and you are the ones that are leading or watching the outside for visitors, watching, you know what I'm saying? Watching. What are they scared about? Then you have people that are very, very angry looking at people when you ask questions. That's a problem when you're afraid to tell the truth about what you believe. You're afraid to discuss what you believe because there are your own scriptures that oppose what you're saying. This is the humor in NOI. It is the humor in a lot of Islam. Rob Christian was doing a live stream today, and I caught part of it and was like, I've seen him do this piece before, and he had a Muslim on who's just sitting there refusing to listen. He's swearing that the guy is lying through his teeth. But anybody could use Google Translate and go to the particular document he had up, which was a hadith that he had up. And you could use that and take a picture and look. Now, Google Translate, it's right on your phone. All right. You can pick it up and use it. This is the cool thing. I mean, if you can use your Google Translate and use the picture, take it and see the translations, this is the stuff I think that's going to make Muslims nuts eventually.
Oh, really?
Because once you start looking at the actual translations, you realize how messed up Islam, the Quran is. Yes, you have to know the old Arabic, but it's
when the Muslims claim they all believe the same, but then the Sunnis say the Shia is not the true Muslim, and vice versa. So we have to wonder which one is the right Muslim.
Well, in Pakistan this week, this is the actual discussion. So in Pakistan this week, there was a bombing of a train station. So we talked to Adam Seeker to find out a little bit more. Sam and I did. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow on Saturday. And Adam Seeker was talking about how there's a faction. Now, it was said in the news article that came out shortly after Adam spoke with us. He talked about this liberation organization, that liberation army that wants their state to be of Pakistan independent. They want to become their own nation. But the real thing that's going on here, besides them wanting to have their own nation, is they're Shiites and they're attacking Sunnis. Oh, is that a surprise? The answer is no. They've been killing each other for hundreds of years. All right, that's part of the sadness of it. I say hundreds. I do not say thousands, because if we take a good look at Islam really wasn't invented till al-Malik. And that's the thing I want people to understand. You won't find Islam before Ibn Malik. And that's quite a statement. Ibn Malik is the creator. A lot of new research out there is pointing that he is the creator of Islam. He is the creator of Muhammad. Islam is created a couple hundred years later than Muhammad existed. So you end up having these severe issues. Dan Janosek is the authority, one of the leading authorities on this. I'll have to see if I can get him to join us one of these days. It's mind-numbing when you start looking at all of this information. There's actual discussions now. Was Sharia invented around the same time the Quran was? Was it because we're talking about the time periods things are invented? We know about the time period the Quran was invented. How many people know the Quran just had its 100th birthday this summer? The Quran had its 100th birthday, not 200, not 300, not 400, 100th birthday.
I have heard that it was created at the beginning of the 20th century or late 19th century. So I actually believe that.
I think that you will find there's pieces of it here and there, but the first full Quran created in 1924.
That's when
I should say created. I'm sorry, not necessarily created. It's the only existing Quran, the first entire Quran. It's the one that's that the Egyptians used.
That's the Hobbs edition. Hobbs
yes,
version.
It is the only. It is the first. There's 40. There's 40, but the first one, the first entire Quran, is 100 years old that we know of. We can't find an older one. So this is just got to make people think. I love Hatun Tash for when we were out in Ohio, she made sure we had a birthday party for the Quran. 100 years. She is a Spitfire. I mean, I don't know if anybody has gone back and looked at the videos for the Ohio conference when she was at. There was an imam who came to that conference, and she went out and spoke to him. She involved him in stuff, asked him questions, and she got him to basically portray Islam as Islam portrays itself. And people were surprised to find his answers. And we're just kind of sitting here. Oh yeah, she got him to say a lot of stuff. It was just kind of like, whoa. So I suggest going back. You can find that on El Iso Elohim. I think it's you take a look for her. She's outstanding. There's a lot of good people out there doing this stuff. We will be back next week. I'm going to be closing this out. It's been a very political day, and I didn't have the intention of going there, but I think the questions that were asked of Claire were pretty important. So let's start looking at. You're going to find If you want to see something, a huge difference in, you know, you want to have some fun. Oh, Larry, we're just getting to see you. Too bad. We're gonna be heading out because it's 2 hours. We're almost at the 2 hour mark, and my goal here, I guess today would be pay attention. And as Darcy says, and I say, do your own research. Don't trust us. Find out for yourselves. My goal is that every Muslim would read the Quran, not by quoting it, not by repeating it, but in your own language. I know that's too scary for some of you because Allah is supposed to only know Arabic. What that means, your God is limited. Oh, he's not omniscient. And your God doesn't communicate with his own prophet. That means, according to the Jews and Christians, he's not a prophet.
All right. God bless. Good night, everybody.
All right. God bless everybody. Everybody enjoy your night. Let's say goodbye.
Yeah. Good night.
I'm Sharon. I'm really happy you came. All right. Thank you, Darcy.